Just before we begin to, as we begin to wrap up, actually, let me ask you, a sense of history, how do you share that with the next generation, especially now that the younger ones don't have Madiba to look back and say, oh, this was the man that actually was the saving grace and was able to steer the ship of state in the right direction to keep it staying afloat. How do you share that sense of history to ensure that people don't forget, especially the next generation and the next generation after that of South Africans don't forget?
That's a good question. Yes, it will be a challenge, but it's not an insurmountable challenge to do that. A challenge in a sense that we need to sit down and rewrite our history. Write down all these things. Maybe firstly look at how we are going to go about it. Are we going to write it, the history like all the other history books are written? Or maybe are we going to come also in a form of storytelling? For instance, as the Deputy Minister has been relating the apartheid, how it was. And I normally say to people, you know, we have two types of apartheid in South Africa. Or let's say we had apartheid, but we categorized it into two. We have what we call the grand apartheid, that the whole world knows of. But then there was the petty apartheid. The petty apartheid was the apartheid we lived in day to day. Very humiliating. You know, the very things that the Deputy Minister is talking about, where a young boy would call an old lady a girl. And then where you could not go into this toilet just because it is for whites. Where you would go to a shop and buy through a window when the whites would go. Yes. All these things where even the dogs knew that this one is black, so we can bark at him.
But they train the dogs to recognize.
We don't know. Maybe the dogs are born that way too. And then a dog with, even if you can have a vicious dog at home, when a white man comes in, it won't bark at him.
Behave.
Yes, it will behave. So maybe the dogs were born the same way. We don't know. But so maybe we need to tell this history in a form of storytelling. So then we can start to package that into a real history book. Because without that element of storytelling, you would not really get the gist of the impact apartheid had in our day-to-day lives. It is also going to be a challenge in a sense that now you have to first teach, before you teach the grandchildren, you have to teach your children. And your children were in this interface. There must be a total renaissance happening with them before you get to the born frees. What they call the born frees. Those who were born after apartheid.
Yes.
But we need to do it as fast as possible. You know, we grew up where history books were written by those who colonized us. So the history that they told us, we don't even
coloration to it.
That's true. That's true. Now we have to tell the real history, and it can only be told in a particular system, where not in the same system that the others did. It's a very good question, and it's a challenge to us all who lived during apartheid, to then impart this knowledge about this apartheid to our children so that they can understand. And again, why I keep on saying challenge, it is not only the black child that you need to tell this history to, but also the white child, you know.
Yes.
Or else if you are not doing that, then the white child might be taught wrong things. By
That creates a disconnect.
Oh, that's true. Now you have to take them all on board and teach them this history.
Now, just out of sheer curiosity, those of you who lived through apartheid, how did you adapt once the whole system had changed? Wasn't there some kind of psychological challenge? So, oh, I can now use this toilet. Oh, I can now sit on this bench. I mean, did you all have all kinds of issues with accepting that you could now do all those things?
We're being told to wind up, so we'll make that your final question.
Okay. Yes, you see, it was easy. It was easy because during apartheid, the whites were afraid that the biggest terror in them was these blacks are going to marry our, not even marry, they are going to take our white children and all those things. And then, but when come this day, they realized that we were not interested in that. We were only interested in the right things, in justice. That's what we were interested in. We already knew that they are here to stay. They've been here since 1652, and that's many centuries back. They came here, and how they came in, they came not to come and colonize. They were also brought here as some sort of indentured labor to South Africa by the Dutch East India Company to go and work in the vegetable plantation. So we knew this history. We knew that it was the British who came 2 centuries thereafter to come and colonize us. So now when the British have lost their elections in the country, the Afrikaners took over. The Afrikaners just perfected the apartheid machinery that started a long time ago. And therefore, we, just like Mandela was able to come out of jail and forgive everybody, we also, with that preaching